Hey guys, all right, here we go. We are here for day 5 of our 5-day gardening challenge. Today we're going to talk about planting, and I am super excited to have everybody here. We had quite a few people that were already waiting when we joined in, and it looks like we've already got some activity in the chat as well. So awesome. Okay, so hi Jeannie, hi True Wound of Substance. I don't know your name. Jennifer is here, and Urban Chicken Mama is here already. So first off, while we're kind of waiting for everybody to come in, here's Iris from Canada is here. While we're waiting, let's really quick. I saw there was a question already, and I'll go ahead and field a quick question. What is the latest that we can plant our onion seedling and transplants out in raised beds? The sooner the better. Really, depending on where you live, it's 4 to 6 weeks before your last frost date, and so like our last frost date is May 15th. So we planted our onions back in the end of March. So the sooner the better. You may not get as big of bulbs planting this late in the year, but otherwise you should be okay. All right. So let's see. What have we got going on? Hi from New Hampshire. And we've got Alabama, Canada, Washington, another from Alabama. Good morning, everybody. Okay. All right. Awesome. So let's see. First off, got my little sticky notes here that I use to make sure I remember to do things. If you haven't already done so, please make sure that you subscribe to my YouTube channel. We'll be doing live broadcasts like this all summer long. Maybe not quite as frequent, not every day, but we'll probably do 1 or 2 a month. So make sure you subscribe so that you've got that. And then also do me a favor. We're just getting started on Instagram. Just broke 1,000 subscribers over there. Jump over. There's a link down below that you can click on, and that will take you out, and you can follow us on Instagram as well. And then make sure you stick around because we're going to do a little teaching today about planting and some of the concepts around planting. And then I'm going to spend some time talking about the Gardening Academy, which I'm super excited to introduce you guys to the Gardening Academy. Some of you are already members, but a lot of you, this will be new. And so I want to make sure that you guys are aware of the Gardening Academy. And then very last thing we're going to do today before questions is announce our prize winners. So I took everybody that had submitted their homework. We had 78 people that had submitted their homework, and I put you into a random number generator, and it spit out 11 numbers. And so I have our 11 winners. 3 people get the grand prize, which is a free month of the Gardening Academy, and then 8 people get seeds from Honest Seed Company, which was Honest Seed Company was very generous in offering these seeds kind of at last minute, and so super grateful for them. Great little company. You should go check them out. There's a link down in the description so you can check them out. But we're going to have packages of seeds for all of our winners, and more than one. I think they haven't arrived yet. They're supposed to be here on Monday. I'm thinking that all of the prize winners are going to get about 3 packages each. So that will be awesome. Okay. There's my other note off of my computer, so now we can focus. All right, so let's talk a little bit. What are we going to be planting today? Hopefully you guys are going to be out there and planting. We've got people from all over the place. I'm looking at the feed right now. North Carolina, California, Missouri, eastern New Mexico, southeastern New Mexico, sorry. So yeah, and it looks like in southeastern New Mexico, you guys got the same weather we did here in Utah because we are cold and cloudy today too. It rained a little bit yesterday, not a lot. Kind of more just a thunderstorm, but the temperatures dropped a ton. So I'm actually not going to be planting much today. My garden dried out pretty quickly, and I am going to plant some cucumbers and maybe a little bit of summer crisp lettuce. But I've got my tomatoes, and here's one of my tomato plants. We're going to use it here in a minute in the thing. I've got my tomatoes and my peppers, most of which I haven't planted. I've got a few that are out in Walla Waters, but I'm not going to put them out today. I was going to put them out today, but it's so cool at night. It's down in the 40s. I'm not worried about it freezing, but peppers especially don't like temperatures in the 40s. It really sets them back. So I'm going to wait till this cool snap is over, which is like Wednesday, before I'm actually going to do the last of my planting. Okay? All right. Looks like we got somebody planting ground cherries and peppers. That's awesome. I've never grown ground cherries. I should do that sometime. Really should. Okay. Really quick, let me turn this off. For those of you that are showing up from the YouTube algorithm, this is day 5 of our 5-day Plant a Garden Challenge, and the videos for this challenge will be up for about a week, so you can check that out. Also, if you want to register late, you'll have missed the prizes, but there is a free workbook that goes along with each day of the challenge, and so if you sign up, I'll send you out an email so that you can have a link to the workbook, which has a lot of great information in it. And by the way, thanks to my daughter and my wife, because they're the ones that threw that workbook together. We kind of had that idea on Monday night and decided to just go for it, and we've been literally up until like 11:30 every night to deal with that, getting that workbook ready. So thank you for them for taking care of that. I will take a little time again at the end for some questions if we have any this time around. So stay tuned for that, and then again we'll do the prizes right before we do the Q&A today. So cool. All right, so let's get planting. Let's talk a little bit about some of the ideas. And again, guys, I'm going to try. Yesterday we ended up being about 40 minutes. I'm going to try and stick to around that again today. Honor your time. It's a Saturday, and you guys ought to be out in the garden. So we'll go fairly quickly here. I've got some good information for you. We'll talk about the Gardening Academy, answer some questions, get the prizes done, answer some questions, and then we're out of here so that you guys can actually go out and plant, okay? All right, so today's topics. Here is what we are going to cover. Turn myself off there. We're going to talk about frost dates and why it's important for you to know your frost date, and a few ideas on how to figure out what your first and last frost dates are. We're going to talk a little bit about hardening seedlings and why that's important. Then we'll talk about how to plant your garden. We're going to just talk briefly about getting transplants in and also planting seeds and a few little hints there. Then one of the things that we included in today's workbook was some pages that you can print for a garden journal. And we're going to talk about garden journals and how it's important to keep a garden journal. Then we'll chat about the Gardening Academy and do the prize winners. Okay, so here we go. First and last frost dates. And this is one of my favorite pictures. I'll turn myself off again. So that's kale covered in frost. And kale is so hardy. I love growing it at the cold time of year because it doesn't ever die. Okay, so first and last frost dates. Why are they important? Your frost date determines when you should be planting. Either your cool season crops or your warm season crops, and even your fall crops, all of your planting dates are based on either your first or your last frost date, okay? So, couple of different ways for you to determine when that actual frost date is. Number one, you need to be keeping track. And again, that's why I've given you some pages in your garden journal. The very first page in my garden journal is, well, I'll show you the journal in a minute, but the very first page has a spot for when my last frost date was and when my first frost date was. And that helps me to establish a pretty good idea throughout the years as to when I should be expecting that. The second best way for you to figure out when your frost dates are is to ask some gardeners in your area. Okay, so if you're new to gardening, get involved with like some local groups, some local Facebook communities. You know, they're all over the country. We have like 4 or 5 really good Facebook groups here in Utah. So get engaged in those because those guys are going to be able to help you quite a bit, okay? The next method would be to look it up online, and it can or can't be dependable. It depends. So here's the website that I recommend that you choose. It's called morningchores.com/frost dates, okay? And if you go there, it's a really simple page where you can put your zip code in, and it will tell you what your first and last frost dates are. There are actually several websites that do this, and they must all be drawing from different databases, because I'm sure, you know, Morning Chores is just basically a blog, but so they must be drawing from some database. But I have found, at least for our area, that morningchores.com is the most accurate. So when I put in the Gardener's Almanac has a calculator too, and when I put it in mine, in that one, it was like way off, like a month off. From what it actually is here. So Morning Chores seem to be the most accurate for me. So I think that's a good place for you to start if you're trying to figure out your frost dates, okay? All right, cool season crops. So let's talk about planting cool season crops. Most of us are beyond cool season crops this time of year. You could still get away with planting some of the more heat tolerant cool season crops. So we're talking here about things like maybe beets, carrots would still do okay, kale, collards, Swiss chard, all of those would still do all right as kind of quasi warm slash cool season crops. But most of the other things, lettuces and most of the root crops are not going to be, we're a little bit too late for most of us. Now, those of you that are like zones 3 and 4, you might still have a little bit of time depending on when your frost dates are. But we target in the cool seasons, in spring we target planting cool season crops 4 to 6 weeks before your last frost date. Okay, that's when we first start planting them, and then you can kind of work your way up until about your last frost date. But recognize that the stuff that you plant right around your last frost date is at much greater risk of maybe ending up being stressed out by the heat because it's just that time of year. Okay, for the fall, with cool season crops, you are going to be planting 6 to 8 weeks before your first frost date. Okay, so for example, in our garden, our first frost date in the fall is October 1st. So we start planting somewhere between August 1st and August 15th. We will start planting lettuce, kale, spinach, broccoli, cabbage, cauliflower, all of those. And it's a really hot time of year. August is hot for us, but if you kind of baby them along and make, spend some extra time caring for them, then you'll have a nice crop that will mature right when it's supposed to, right when those temperatures start dropping down back into the 70s and the 60s. Then that will be perfect for you with those cool season crops. Okay, warm season crops are a little bit different. You have to wait until on or after your last average frost date to plant your warm season crops. So warm season crops are things like tomatoes, peppers, eggplant, melons, squash, cucumbers, beans. All of those we have to wait until the frost. Corn, all of those are plants that we're going to wait until after that frost is gone. So we have most of our squash in. We just passed our last frost date last week. But I haven't planted my tomatoes and my peppers yet, other than a couple of tomatoes that are in Wall of Waters. But beyond that, I haven't planted them yet because I'm still worried about cool weather and frost. Okay, so knowing that frost date is super important in knowing when you should actually be planting. Okay, all right. So now let's get ready to plant. And I noticed we've got a few questions already popping up. So guys, if you're new to the live streams, I'll answer your questions towards the end. Okay. All right, hardening off. So we do need to make sure that we harden off our seedlings, especially our homegrown seedlings, okay? Homegrown seedlings, you have been babying those guys indoors for weeks and weeks and weeks and taking super good care of them, giving them the perfect growing environment with just the right amount of sun and water and fertilizer and all that kind of stuff. And if you were to just take your little baby seedlings out and throw them in the garden, they are going to hate you and they're probably going to die. Okay, so homegrown seedlings, I recommend that we harden them off for at least 7 to 10 days. And the way you harden plants off is you slowly introduce them to the garden. Okay, so maybe the first day you take all your seedlings out and you put them in the shade of a tree and you leave them out there for 3 to 5 hours. Okay, the second day you add a couple of hours to it, but still leave them in the shade. And then the third day, a couple more hours until you're up to like 8 or 9 hours. Then the next day you take them out and put them in the sun for 2 or 3 hours and then put them back in the shade. And then the next day a little bit more and a little bit more until they are finally used to that warmer sun, the wind, the humidity, the different things that are happening out in the garden. We want to adapt them to it. If we just throw them out there, they're going to just go into shock, and a lot of times that transplant shock will actually kill your little transplants. Okay, now to be safe, I also recommend that you harden off any store-bought transplants. I have found that I usually don't have to do it quite as long because they've already kind of been hardening. Now, if you're buying them from a store that is totally indoors, it's not like a greenhouse or they haven't been displayed outside, then I might consider the 7 to 10 days. But most nurseries are kind of a greenhouse environment. They're already been exposed to some of the outdoor conditions. And so just to be safe, I'll go 4 to 5 days of hardening. Now, I'll be honest, there have been some years when I've just gone and got a tomato plant and threw it in that day. And it usually is okay, but there have been a few years where it was obvious that that plant hadn't hardened much and it had some shock. So I think it's a good idea to harden one way or the other, whether you bought them yourself or grew them yourself or bought them from a nursery, okay? All right, we've had a couple of questions over the last few days about soaking seeds. Soaking your seeds is kind of an old-timer's recommendation, okay? And the recommendation is that you soak your seeds overnight before you plant them. And the idea is that you will get faster germination. So you can see this is a picture of some peas that I soaked. I think this was actually last year's. And it's a practice that a lot of people do, but it doesn't have a lot of science behind it. In fact, it has some science against it. So some people will say soaking those seeds first before you plant them will get you a better germination rate. And that has actually been scientifically proven to be wrong, okay? So universities have done studies on whether the germination rates differ between soaking and not soaking, and the answer was it doesn't matter, okay? So soaking doesn't matter. But I believe, not scientific, but I believe that soaking those harder shelled seeds, so things like peas, beans, and even corn, if you wanted to, soaking those will get you faster germination. So if you're looking at trying to get those seeds up and growing quicker, then soaking them for 8 to, at the very most, 12 hours is okay. But no more than 12 hours, because then you're going to start, the seeds are going to get overhydrated and they're going to start having mold and all kinds of issues like that. So 8 to 12 hours is the tops that you want to do it. And just recognize that that's an old-timer's wife's tale type recommendation that isn't going to hurt anything, may or may not help, okay? All right, so, but we definitely had several questions about that this week. All right, so let's get planting. Let's talk about our plants. And I actually brought us a few transplants here. So let me show you this guy. This is one of my pepper transplants, looking pretty good. And he's I think, hoping that he gets out in the garden soon, because it's been six to 8 weeks. So when we are planting most transplants, okay, we are going to put them in the ground at the same level that they're in the pot. Okay, so if you look here, let me see, yeah, that works out okay. So we want the soil in the garden to just come right up to the same level as the soil in the pot. We don't want to bury them any deeper. We also don't want them to be any higher in the ground, because then some of the roots will be exposed. So try and get them right at level when you're planting them, okay? Now, there's an exception to that, and I brought one of those as well, and that is tomatoes. So I'm not sure if my camera will be detailed enough or not, but let's zoom in here really close. Can you guys see those little bumps along the stem? And I know you probably can't see this, but there's also little kind of wispy little wiry things. Those are actually will become roots, okay, if we plant this deep. So tomatoes you can plant deeper, and this particular tomato plant I will probably plant all the way up to here where my finger is. So I'm going to pull this guy off, and I'm probably going to plant it that deep. And the reason why is because all along this stem more roots will grow, and so that will give this plant a whole bunch more root, and will make it that much more secure in the ground, that much more able to survive and to get its nutrients and stuff like that. So I like to just plant them deep, okay? But you can also plant tomatoes like this. So you can, I'm going to dump all the dirt out, but you can plant them sideways and then bend them if you can carefully do it. But usually it depends on the variety. So this is Aroma, and it's got a nice flexible stem. But some varieties are much stockier. Their stems are much stockier, and so you don't want to be trying to bend them up like that, okay, if that makes sense. So then you're just going to plant them deep. But I usually just dig a deep hole and plant them extra deep. So, but everything else, all of the other transplants, your peppers, your eggplant, your your squashes, your lettuces, whatever it is, you're going to plant those all at ground level. So you want them to be the same level in the ground as they were in their pots, okay? New transplants are going to need a little extra care for a while because their roots right now are limited to this little, 3-inch pot. And so we actually want to make sure that we care for them while the roots kind of get their way out of that ball that they were in and into the soil. So for 2 to 3 weeks after you put transplants out, you want to baby them, okay? Make sure you check the water every day, and you may, depending on what your weather is like, you may actually be checking them. Sorry guys, I'm going to blow really quick here because I've got dirt all over my computer now. So anyways, make sure that you baby those starts for the first 2 to 3 weeks to make sure they get off to the right start, okay? Now, planting seeds. So the seed depth, or the depth that you should be putting your seeds in, should be on your package. If it's a decent seed company, they should tell you plant this seed 1 inch deep or 1/4 of an inch or whatever. But if in case it doesn't, or if you're planting seeds that somebody has given you and you don't have a package, the general rule of thumb is 2 to 3 times as deep as the seed is wide, okay? So that means small seeds, things like lettuce and beets and spinach and celery and all of those are going to be planted very shallow. 1/8 to 1/4 of an inch is all that we're going to be planting those. Larger seeds, so things like beans and melons and squash and peas, those seeds are going to go 1/2 inch to 1 inch deep, okay? Is how far we're going to do them. Now, spacing, and let me turn this off because I thought this actually isn't one of my pictures. I found it on Canva, but see how close they are, and that's okay. I'm good with that. Whoever took this picture probably wasn't a university plant professor or something like that, because most of them would recommend wider spacing than that. But I'm actually okay with cheating on the spacing of plants, especially when it comes to rows. So your seed package may say plant 2 to 4 inches apart in rows spaced 12 to 18 inches apart. No, you don't need to do that. So if you've got a 4-foot bed, you don't need to be spacing those out anywhere near that much, okay? So go ahead and crunch them together. Now there's some exceptions to that. You're not going to crunch tomatoes together. You're not going to crunch squash plants together because they need that sprawling room. But a lot of our plants, especially like all of our leafy greens and even a lot of our root crops, you can really cheat on that spacing and put more plants in a smaller amount of space. And if you really want to learn more about that, I would recommend that you read the book Square Foot Gardening, because he's the guy that wrote that book, who has since passed away, but he was a big proponent of intensive planting. And so his rules are a lot tighter than what the seed package is going to tell you. So make sure that you use up your space, okay? Now, once you have planted your seeds, you need to make sure that you keep those seed beds moist, okay? So you should be watering probably more often than you will be later on, just to keep them moist. Now, you don't want them soaking wet, but you do want them to be nice and moist, and that will help with your germination. And then again, same thing, once they're germinated and up and going, you're going to need to care for them extra closely for 2 to 3 weeks until the plants really get established, okay? All right. Wow, looks like we got some good questions coming. So let's talk. I think this is the last topic that we're going to cover, is using a garden journal. So here's my garden journal. It's a 3-ring binder, and this actually has information back to all the way back to, I think, 2007. So I was not very good at keeping a garden journal up until that point. To my regret, because as I started moving into my 40s, I found that my memory wasn't nearly as good. And so we used to say, oh, we'll remember that we planted that there last year and we'll put it someplace else. And then we started not remembering where we had planted things. And that was before I was running a website and we weren't taking pictures. And so, yeah. So starting a garden journal was one of the best things that I have done for my garden, because this just becomes a treasure trove of information for me. So let's kind of go through and talk about why we want to do that. It's going to help you stay organized. It's going to help you track what's happening in your current year. You're going to have notes on how things are doing, how things did. You'll be able to track your crop rotation. You'll have seed starting notes and then class notes from things like this. You know, you can stick all of that kind of stuff in here. So let me just go through, and most of these pages we have included for you in the workbooks. So if you want to print these off, you can. So first page, this is kind of just a summary of the year, and I usually, how do I get, there we go. I usually will use that first page to put my first and last frost dates, what my high and low temperatures were for the year, and what my overall weather conditions are, and kind of just some general notes of how things went for that year. Then the next is my planting journals, and I've got pages here that we use to keep track of every crop that we plant. So first entry in this year's was potatoes that we planted early in the season, and I have all the information that I need there, including when they germinated, so that I have a pretty good idea of what's happening, and I keep track of all of my plants that way. Okay. Then I also have a crop rotation map, and this one is one you'll kind of have to create yourself. Now, we did include some grid paper for you in one of the workbooks if you want to do that, but I keep track of what I planted every year so that I know for crop rotation purposes what I'm doing. And then I also have a seed starting log, and we included this one for you as well, so that I know how things did, what seedlings I started, when I started them. Like this year, I didn't get my broccoli started soon enough, and it just wasn't ready to go out, and I ended up having to buy broccoli. Next year I'm not going to start broccoli on March 5th. I'm going to start it sooner than that so that it's ready to go out in the garden sooner. So lots of good things that can come from a garden journal, and so you definitely should be using a garden journal. Like I say, there's printables for you so that you can print as many pages as you need, and I would encourage you to front and back them if you can. That way that saves some space and paper. Okay? All right, so that is it. Uh-oh, somebody's being rude in the comments. All right, so let's see. Let's try and be nice to each other in the comments, okay? All right. Okay, looks like somebody's spamming the chat, so stop it, guys. Okay, all right, let's move on. So thank you guys for joining this challenge. This has been a lot of fun. I'm overwhelmed with how many people joined. When we did this, it was kind of spur of the moment. We decided to do it about 2 weeks ago, and I thought maybe we might have, if I was really lucky, there might be 100 people that joined, and we ended up with 348 people that joined the challenge. So very, very cool. 78 of you submitted enough homework for you to qualify for the drawing. We have 140 something people in the Facebook group. So this was just a blast. I'm astounded, and you guys were just really, really. Let's see if I can block this person that's doing this. I don't know. No, it doesn't look like it. I guess I need to learn YouTube a little bit better. So sorry, guys, in the chat, we've got somebody that's being spammy right now. So I apologize. Moderators can do it. Use the block button. Where is it? Sorry. I can't. I think I can't do it because I'm actually using streaming software, and so I think that's why it's not letting me do it. So I apologize, guys. I'm sorry. We've got a spammer in there. It looks like maybe they've chilled out for a minute, so hopefully they'll do it. So okay. So anyways, guys, sorry, got a little bit distracted there by spammer happening. Super fun, and this has just been a blast, and so I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you guys enjoyed the energy. I was just amazed. You guys were awesome. This was fun. It was a blast. We're worn out. I had to bring my daughter in to help to respond to comments and keep track of everybody that was posting the homework. And the workbooks were a big hit, and so thank you guys. This has just been a really, really fun challenge. It's been a blast. So I want to continue that with you. I want to continue the energy and the fun that we have been having, and so I want to introduce to you guys the Gardening Academy. Okay, so Gardening Academy is our subscription service, and if you like the challenge as much as I did, it doesn't have to just be 5 days. Okay, you guys can join a community of people that just love gardening, and and the Gardening Academy is just fun. So we're about 18 months that the Gardening Academy has been open, and we have a really good group of people in there, and we're looking to expand. We want to add more, and you know, honestly, this is how I hope to make my living someday, is teaching people how to garden. And so the more people we get into the Gardening Academy, the better. So I want to invite you guys to come here. And the Gardening Academy gives you an opportunity to learn from me every week. And the nice thing about it is it's not this slides on a, you know, screen thing. I film videos out in the garden, or in the wintertime I'll film them out in the garage where I'm doing demonstrations, seed starting, and all that kind of stuff. And so you'll every week there'll be something from me that you guys can learn from. And so it's maybe not quite as intense as this 5 days has been, but it's something for you every week that you can join. So let's look really quick. This is what you get by being a member. So we have weekly garden helps. Every month we do a monthly planting guide 1 week, and then we do a live Q&A broadcast, which I'll talk about in a minute, every month, sorry. And then every month we do a live, or a recorded mini course. So this is kind of a more technical. They're usually about half hour to 45 minutes long on a topic that we have chosen. And so like this month we talked about warm season crops. Last month we talked about, what did we talk about? Have to think it through. Oh, we talked about planting peas. And the month before that we talked about cool season crops. And then we did seed starting. So we have this big library of mini courses, and I'll be adding to that every month, okay? Then we do the live monthly Q&A. That's one of the things for the week. And then the last week of the month is kind of a grab bag, where I will do additions to some of the courses, or we may do a live interview with an expert. I might do a garden tour. We'll do garden tours of different members of the academy. Sometimes give them some advice on you know, improvements that they want to have made. And I'll also occasionally do a recipe or something like that to help you guys out. So then on top of that, we have number 2 on the list is the Garden Foundations course. So the Garden Foundations course is a course that's meant for both beginners and more experienced gardeners to kind of just get you on a good foundation. So I go through all of the basics of gardening, and so it's great for new people, but also for those of you that have got a few years under your belt, it can kind of help to correct some of maybe the mistakes that you're making. That's a full-length course. It's about 5.5 hours long total, and that is free as part of the membership, okay? Then monthly we do a Q&A Zoom call. And that is a chance, so it's different than what it is here. So on this broadcast, it's kind of one-sided. You know, you guys can't ask follow-up questions and things like that. Whereas on this live call, you guys are able to pop on and ask some follow-ups and everything like that. And so it's super, super good. And we just did that this week and had a ton of fun. We usually get about 20% of our members that show up. So we had a really good group this week. And so that was awesome. And then we have a members-only Facebook group that is specific just to you guys. And so it's always going to be smaller. It's always going to be monitored so we don't have spammers in it and stuff like that. So that is a good opportunity. So let me just make myself live again here. And I want you guys to know the enthusiasm and everything that I saw in this challenge this week has really, really made me want to invite you guys to come and join the Gardening Academy. I really think that you will love being a part of it. It's a great experience. Everybody that has been there has just loved it and thought that it was fantastic. And so I want to invite you to come and join us and be part of our community. It's a great opportunity. So come and join. Okay, so let's talk really quick about price, because everything has a price, right? So normally we have 3 ways that you can join. You can join monthly, every 6 months, or 12 months, okay? And these are all subscriptions, so if you don't cancel, they'll just automatically renew at those time frames. So monthly, 25, every 6 months, 135, every 12 months is 250. But for this challenge, I'm doing a little bit of a special so that we can hopefully entice you guys to come and join. And these are permanent discounts that will apply to your account as long as you keep it active. So we're going to do, for this challenge special, 5 days only. It ends on Wednesday the 26th. Monthly will be $19.99. Every 6 months will be $120, and every year will be $225. So hopefully this is an opportunity. Some of you have already been sneaky and gotten in, and we've already had a few people that found the links earlier and have already joined. So glad to see people already signing up for it. Also, a little bit of a bonus for you guys that are in the challenge. So like I said, we do our live call on the third Thursday of every month, which means we did it already this month. And so as a bonus for those of you, because I really anticipate that there will be quite a few of you that come and sign up, we're going to do a couple of extra live sessions. Okay, so we're going to do on Thursday the 27th, I'll do one at noon, well at 12:30, and then one in the evening. And that'll kind of depend on demand. So we'll have a sign up. And so if enough people sign up to do the 12:30, we'll do one at 12:30 and we'll do one at 7. But otherwise, we may just do the 7 o'clock. But I'm going to do a special session just for you guys. So because when new members come in, they always have lots of questions for me. So I thought, let's do a bonus session for you guys to come in. So that will be specifically for the new people, although existing members will be welcome to come as well. But that bonus session will be there for you. This coming up Thursday. Okay, so come and join us. These special prices end. Here we go with the sales pitch. These special prices end on Wednesday, May 26th, and at midnight. And that actually is. I haven't done this kind of a discount before on the longer memberships, so the annual and the semi-annual. So take advantage of it because this would be a great opportunity for you to come and join. And it's not just about me, it's about the community. We have a lot of fun. And so when you click, there's links down in the description below, and choose your option. If you want to pay monthly, you want to pay every 6 months, you want to pay annually, click on that link and that will apply the coupon, the discount. Okay. And it will take you to the sales page. You can read more about it. There's information from a lot of our current members as to what they think, a couple of videos that you can see, so it gives more detail on what I actually cover. But those links are down below, and the price will be good until the 26th of May. So, and I'll send out, I'm not going to just like hound you guys about this, but I am going to send out an email every day for the next couple of days just to remind you. And then I'll stop selling to you, and you guys that are on the list will kind of just go into my regular weekly email list, and I send out an email every week. Okay, so there you go. That is the Gardening Academy. Please come and join us. I'd love to have you, and a great opportunity to save some money. So click on the link down below, and we'll get you in. Okay. All right. So let's talk about the prize winners. I'm going to turn myself off again. So here's what I did. We had 78 people that completed the homework, so I put everybody into a spreadsheet and assigned you a number. Then I used a random number generator to draw 11 names. Okay, the first 3 names won the grand prize, which is a free month's membership to the Gardening Academy. So you can either use that as a trial if you want to, check it out. You can use it as a trial, or if you are planning on joining and staying, then you can just sign up and then I will refund you that first month's thing. So those winners, there were 3 of them. Okay, and so here we go. Grand prize winners are Emily Peterson, Elizabeth Cherney, and William Garland. Okay, so I will send each of you an email out as soon as we kind of get settled. And because this has been a crazy week, so as soon as we get settled, I will get those out. Okay. Now the second place prizes, I guess we would call them, are some seeds. And our sponsor for this part of the seeds is, let me turn myself back on so I can talk to you for a second, is Honest Seed Company. And guys, totally, I sent them an email saying, hey, would you guys be willing to give me some seeds? And they like jumped all over it. They're like, we love giving away seeds to people. So yes. And they actually, I just asked them for enough to do like 3 prizes, and they sent enough to do 8 prizes. So those are supposed to arrive on Monday, and then we will package them up and send them out to you guys. So unfortunately, I had to disqualify anybody that lived out of the country because you can't ship seeds out of the United States into other countries. But everybody else was still eligible, so I'm sorry about the others. But actually, the people that the random number generator spit out. None of them happen to be out of the country anyway, so we're good. So let's see. Here are our prize winners. And again, On a Seed Company, great little company. They're just getting started, but a fantastic little website and a good overall concept. It's family owned and a great company. So here are our winners. Okay. On a Seed Company winners, we have Michelle, Amy, Danielle, Cal, Ethan, Melanie, Janet, and Carrie. Congratulations, guys. You guys will each get about 3 packages of seeds, kind of some random seeds that they are going to be sending out to us. And they're sending enough that each of you will receive 3 packages. So I will contact you either via Facebook or more likely just via email. So watch out for an email, and I will just need your mailing address so that we can just put these in an envelope and get them out to you. So very cool. Congratulations. Very, very awesome. This was fun, guys, and it was fun to have. I actually wasn't going to do prizes, and somebody at the very first recommended that, hey, why don't you do some prizes? And I thought, yeah, cool. So I called on it, or I emailed On a Seed Company, and they were all over it. So I'm really, really grateful for them, and this was fun. Okay, homework for today. Although this doesn't count, obviously, for the entries, but if you want to submit homework, I'll put up a homework day for this one as well. Find out your frost date, start a garden journal, and post a picture of that homework. And then when you get your gardens planted, guys, I'm going to leave the Facebook group active for a while. So when you get your gardens planted, share your pictures. And I'm going to do a follow-up. I'll send a follow-up email out in about 2 or 3 weeks so that we can kind of post how things are going, pictures in the Facebook group, because everybody was just so involved in the Facebook group and so participating so well that let's kind of keep it going. So I'll send out, probably 2 or 3 weeks out, I'll send out an email so that we can just, or I'll send out, sorry, not an email, I'll send out a post on the Facebook group so that we can post pictures of how our gardens are doing. So hopefully you guys will like that. Okay, so thanks for being a part of the challenge, guys. Happy gardening. This is awesome. We are 42 minutes in. Let's take a minute, and it looks like we have some questions. I wasn't sure whether we would have questions this time around, but we do. So let me see what we've got here. Wow, looks like we got a pretty good list of questions. So I'll go ahead and answer those. Okay, first off, Cordova Labs has a question, a bit off subject. When I checked some of my plants, I found 2 peppers leaning over due to damage, rot, or splitting at ground level. Is it worth keeping them, or should I replace? Okay, so I would replace. You're early enough in the season that you're okay to still replace. And I'm not sure, Cordova Labs, where you live, but you're early enough in the season that if there's damage there, I would replace them. I suspect, but I don't know because I don't know where you live, that could be cutworm damage. And so you might want to do something to help prevent that. Easiest organic way to prevent cutworm damage is get like a yogurt cup, or maybe even a little bit bigger, like a cottage cheese container. Cut the bottom out of it so that it's a ring, okay? And then put that in the ground first and then plant inside that. That should give you, especially if you use like a cottage cheese container, that should give you enough root space. And that the cutworms are usually right close to the surface. And so by putting that collar around your plants, it will keep the cutworms from getting to your plant. And so it needs to be just above ground level so that and then if it's 3 or 4 inches down, that will help to keep those. I'm assuming that's what it is without seeing it. I don't know for sure, but that's possibly the chance, okay? How do I take out my PVC each year? So we rotate our beds every year, and so the configuration of our beds is different every year. Both our raised beds and our flatbed garden, everything is configured differently every year. And so in the fall, once I'm finished watering, and we grow a lot of fall crops too. A lot of our garden, we have stuff all the way into the winter. We use cold frames and hoop houses, and that's a whole other subject that we can talk about. And I'll probably do a challenge for that in June so that we can start talking about growing in the wintertime too. But we rotate so much that our beds change every year, and so that's one of the nice things about the PVC system is it's fairly easy to adapt it. And so we just literally pull everything out, stack it in a corner, and then the next year we reconfigure the beds for what we have planted in that bed that year. So that's kind of how we do that. Okay. All right. I'm going to totally massacre this name, but I think it's Bindu. So is asking, what does yellowing of leaves, actual leaves, not the seedling leaves, after transplant indicate? Okay, so could indicate a bunch of things. Unfortunately, yellowing leaves just means the plant's stressed. It could be too much water, it could be not enough water, it could be transplant shock, or it could be a disease problem. So unfortunately, that's not a very good answer, but yellowing leaves is a very generic problem that sometimes you just don't know what's happening. So make sure that you've watered them enough, but that you're not watering them too much, because watering too much does the same thing as watering not enough does. So monitor that watering, and hopefully it's not a disease issue. Probably not with a transplant, but it could just be that maybe they didn't get hardened off quite long enough, and it's a little bit of stress that's showing up. Pam is asking, any tips or tricks for growing celery or Jemica? And I don't even know if I said that right. I know what it is, but I have never grown Jemica. I'm not even sure if I'm saying that right. So I don't have any advice for you on that one. Celery does well here. And by the way, guys, Pam is a member of the Gardening Academy, and she lives here in Utah. She actually only lives about 5 or 6 miles away, although we've never actually met other than on the Zoom calls. But celery Pam does well here in Utah. You need to get it in right away. So if you haven't started seedlings, go to the store and buy some. Last time I was at IFA, I think they had some. But celery takes a long time to grow. And so it's like 120 days to maturity. And so you need to get it in now, because we're going to already start bumping up against running out of space. And celery will handle some frost in the fall, but not a ton. We left some celery out one night not knowing it was going to be frosty. We weren't paying attention, and it got killed because it ended up dropping down. Pam, if you remember, we had a night that kind of just out of nowhere dropped down to like 20, and that killed it. So, but celery, as long as you keep it well watered and it likes to be mulched, then you should be in pretty good shape with celery. Okay. How large should you plant your seedlings, or should your seedlings be before you plant them? Okay. I actually prefer smaller seedlings. So this tomato, and this isn't one I grew. I have tomatoes that I grew, but I never grow aromas. I only do one of them, and so it doesn't make sense to buy seeds for one plant. This is actually kind of the biggest tomato seedling that I will ever put in. I prefer to go a little bit smaller, because I feel like those plants are usually a little bit more healthy. The smaller seedlings are usually a bit more healthy. For most seedlings, when I'm growing my own seedlings, I'll usually want to get those transplanted out into the garden about 6 weeks after they've germinated. So they're going to be indoors for about 6 weeks. The exceptions to that would be tomatoes and peppers, okay, and eggplant. Anything in the tomato family, basically, which that's tomato, peppers, and eggplants. Those need longer, okay? Tomatoes, you're going to be more like 6 to 8 weeks. Peppers, same with eggplant, 6 to 8 weeks. Peppers are going to prefer 8 or more. So this guy right here, this pepper plant is just a small, compared to what you're going to get at like a store. This is a fairly small transplant, and he's almost 8 weeks old, okay? So I like smaller because I feel like they're usually less stressed, they're less likely to be root bound, and so that's kind of my targeting on those, okay? Is celery a cool crop? Good question. Oh, whoops, and I missed one, so we'll go back to that one. Is celery a cool season crop? Celery takes so long to grow that no, it's not. It's kind of an all-season crop. So you usually will plant it in the spring, but it's 120 days to maturity, and so there's no way you're going to have 120 cool days to grow it in. So it'll end up, we plant ours, like we have 4 plants out in our garden right now, And we put them in, a week ago, maybe 10 days ago, and we won't harvest until late August. So it's really a summer crop that kind of, you plant it when it's cooler and it kind of bridges over, at least in most areas. Which nutrients do peppers need? Peppers are not big fans of nitrogen. So if you get a fertilizer that you're going to put in, you want the first number to be a little bit lower, and the second number to be the highest, and the third number a little bit lower as well. And that's the if you're looking at fertilizer, that's what you want with peppers. Okay. I want to grow orange glow watermelon in my raised beds. They're 4x2, and I want to sow 4 seeds. Do I recommend that as the fruit start to develop, I only keep 1 fruit per plant and remove all other fruits? No, I don't. You should, a plant should be able to support at least 4, okay? As long as it's healthy, it should be able to support at least 4 melons. Possibly even more than that. When we grow watermelons, I honestly don't keep track, but we grow quite a few. So this year we're trying for the first time, we're growing watermelons on a trellis, and so we'll see, and I may actually be able to tell a little bit more, but I never even pay attention. But one plant should easily be able to support at least 4 melons, no problem. And I'd have to do a little research to even be comfortable with that answer. It could be more like 5 or 6, but for sure at least 4 should be fine. Okay. I transplant seedlings that are 1 to 2 weeks old from pots into raised beds, and that is fine, especially if we're talking about things like squash and cucumbers, stuff like that. That is fine. But even, leafy greens and all that kind of stuff, that couple of weeks head start is good. So I actually prefer a little bit bigger, but not the tiny as well. So we'll usually, like all of our greens and stuff, are usually 4 to 6 weeks when we transplant those out. Yes, I will be doing the challenge again next year, and we might even do it twice. So we may do like a cool season challenge and then a warm season challenge. So maybe in March or April, and then again in May. So we'll see how that goes. But I'll announce, and you guys are kind of part of the family now, so you'll see those things coming out. Okay, what time of the day is the Academy? The Gardening Academy is everything except for the live Q&A call is pre-recorded. So you can watch it anytime you want. And in fact, when you join, you get access to all of the past content. So there's a lot of stuff out there right now. You can watch it anytime. And then I always release, once a week, I release new content. The only thing that's live is the Q&A call, and that is usually the 3rd Thursday of every month, and I do it in the evening. We were doing it at 6 p.m. Mountain. We've moved it back to 7 p.m. Mountain so that the people that live on the West Coast have a chance to get home from work first. So 7 p.m. Mountain Time, which is 6 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Central, 9 p.m. Eastern. That's the only thing that's time sensitive on the Gardening Academy. Everything else is pre-recorded videos. That way I'm able to get out in the garden. Here I'm kind of tied to the computer, and so that's a little bit better that way. Okay, the one-day replay, Brenda, you should just be able to find it on my YouTube channel. So if you go to my YouTube channel, which is Our Stoney Acres, and it's right there in videos. It should be right there in the top. If you still have problems, email me and I'll send you the link, but it should just be right there. I haven't, they're going to stay up for at least a week, so all of them are there, okay? And they're live to the public. What is the proper spacing for zucchini bush plants? Okay, zucchinis are big. Okay, so they get quite large and can take up 4 to 6 feet of space, and so you do need to give zucchini plants plenty of space. Now there are some bush varieties that grow smaller, and so if you don't have enough space for a big 4-foot plant, then you could go with a bush variety. They won't be quite as productive, but it's still a good option. So, but zucchinis, you got to give them room. So, and the other thing is, you got to love zucchini to plant more than one, okay? Because we'll plant one hill of zucchinis, which will end up usually being about 2 or 3 plants, and that will get about 6 feet wide total and will produce hundreds of pounds in a year. So if you don't know if you like zucchini, then you need to make sure that you only plant one because they produce a lot. Okay. Jeannie wants to know, can you plant tomatoes and snow peas in the same container? Yes, you definitely could. The problem is I would be a little bit worried that the snow peas are going to overwhelm the tomatoes. You're going to plant the snow peas sooner than you're going to plant the tomatoes. So the snow peas would go in 4 to 6 weeks before your last frost, whereas the tomatoes are not going to go in until after your last frost. And so those snow peas plants are going to be pretty big. So if it's a really large container, you might be able to pull it off. But I would be a little bit worried that the snow peas would really kind of set the tomato back, that there would be so much shade. Because by the time you're ready to plant the tomato, the snow peas are not going to be ready yet. They're only going to be 4 to 6 weeks old, and it usually takes about 12 weeks for peas to mature. So it might not be the best mix. The snow peas should probably be followed with something like beans, or you could maybe pull off a zucchini, because zucchini are usually about 60 to 75 days. But or you could wait and your snow peas, depending on where you live, your snow peas will probably be done in June, and you could probably replant them in July and have a fall crop. So I'm not sure that I would put snow peas and tomatoes in the same container. Have I harvested? Deborah is wondering, have I harvested my own seeds? And the answer to that question is yes. Although that's one that I'm still learning. I have never done like tomatoes, but we have done like kale. I haven't bought kale seeds we have a variety of kale that we really love. I haven't bought kale seeds for 10 years, 12 years maybe. No, that's not true. It was about 9 years. I think the first time I saved kale seeds was in 2012. We also have 2 or 3 different varieties of lettuce that I save seeds from. We have experimented with other crops. The problem with seed saving is that it requires isolation, and we have such a small yard that it's really hard to isolate like squashes or tomatoes or things like that. And so I've dabbled, but haven't done a million things. But it's really easy to do things like kale or broccoli. You just need to make sure that only one of those type of plants goes to flower at that time, and then you can do that. And lettuce is really simple. Spinach is not too bad. Radishes, carrots, all of those are pretty easy to do. So best fertilizer for tomatoes, and we're almost an hour, guys, so we're gonna wrap it up. I see 2 questions here from Lori, and then we're done. Okay, so fertilizer for tomatoes, best fertilizer is just something balanced. So a good 5 5 5 10 10 10, something that's good and balanced, and use something organic, either a liquid fertilizer, so you could do like fish emulsion. You could do, there's a company called King Neptune that does a lot of kind of fish-based fertilizers that are balanced or have different, they actually have like a tomato and pepper mix. So just look for something like that. But a good solid organic fertilizer should be fine. And if you have seedlings from the store, can you still plant some snow peas? Yes, you could. If you've got some seedlings, it's getting a little bit warm for most of us, but you probably could do that. Sorry, voice is getting scratchy. Okay, guys, awesome. I wasn't sure what to expect on questions today, and we had a ton, so thank you. And thank you. Today, it was my wife that was helping us with the questions, so I appreciate AJ for helping us out with that as well. Okay, guys, thanks again. This challenge has just been a ton of fun, and I didn't know what to expect, and was just super happy. So thank you very much for being a part of this challenge. Please go check out the Gardening Academy, because you're going to love it. The way you guys were acting in this challenge and how engaged you are, you're going to love the Gardening Academy. We have so many good people that are already there. We already have 55 members, and we're looking to double that. And so I would love it if you guys would come and join. So remember, the link for all of the different sales prices are down in the description. I will also send out an email today with, the standard, here's the workbooks and all that kind of stuff, and it will also include the links. And then I'll email to remind you. I'm really not going to hound you too much, but I'll email you once a day for the next couple of days just to remind you. And then on Wednesday we'll send out as well. But please come and join us in the Gardening Academy, because that is where the fun is. Okay, we have just a really fun time there, and I love being part of that academy and being the teacher there. So please come and join us there. Okay, all right, guys, thank you so much. Appreciate all of you guys joining, and 350 of you. That's awesome. Thanks again, and everybody have a great Saturday. Go get your gardens planted. Send us some pictures of what you've gotten planted. Put them on the Facebook group, and everybody have a great weekend.